Okay, so welcome to the final section, the final video of this series on the OB-XA number 5. So, okay, so now we're going to talk about the modulation. And I know that looks challenging, but it's really simple. Just don't fear the modulations. It's super simple. And since the modulation that we get by default on the synth is very static and, we just can do a couple of things. On this one, we can do whatever we want. And it's really, really useful. So, okay, so let's just begin with this. I'm going to go right here to modulations. And right now I'm using the default template, right? So we just get that. Cool. Now I'm going to go to here. I'm going to use this part because these are two different modulations. You get the functions or, the envelope modulation, let's say, and then you get the modulation matrix. This is just a different type of modulation and they are not linked. Okay. So I'm going to go and use this one for now. So what this means is that we can draw an envelope with different points, and I believe we can do as much as we wish, or maybe it's going to be 16 or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe 16. Yeah, you can do 16 points. All right. So what you can do is you can draw whatever you wish, and whatever thing that you're drawing is going to be used as an instruction. And you can do a right click and a left click to create a point, or you can do a left click to delete that point, right? So again, it's just very simple. So let's say I want to do something like this, right? I just want to go up in something and then go down to the original position. Or maybe just do something like this, right? So this is what we want to do. Okay. So notice right here that on this one, you get Pulley, loop, and key trigger. So now I'm going to go and turn off this one, and I'm going to explain what this one does in a minute because it's a bit weird. Okay. So again, if I do something, nothing happens. Okay. Right. So cool. So of course, we need to decide what this envelope is going to move or what, is going to modulate. If I go here, we have a lot of options. So yeah, on this one, we could do only frequency and the width, but right here, we can do whatever we want. So I'm going to go to the oscillator number 1 and 2 frequency because we are going to be able to hear it. It's pretty obvious. So I'm going to go right here and nothing happens. And it's because you will need to select a percentage. And notice you can go up or you can go down. So if I go all the way 100%, it means that this envelope will be applied 100%. And notice that we hear the frequency going up and down. Oh, sorry, it's the frequency. It's going to be this frequency, all right? The pitch, not the cutoff frequency. So let me go all the way up, or maybe there. So it goes up in frequency and then goes down, right? It's just pretty simple. Of course, we can do an in-between. So we're going to do just a little bit of this, or you can go in negative. So instead of going up in pitch, it's going down in pitch because we are providing a negative amount. So this is like selecting the polarity. Now, of course, if I go like this means that it's going to go to the opposite position of where this is. And this is what I'm telling you about the polarity. I'm going to go all the way down. And even though we are all the way down now, it's going to do the opposite of whatever, this point is. It's going to go up. So the fact that you can do minus or 100, go into positive or negative, it doesn't matter because you can go and draw it right here, right? Can go up in pitch or down in pitch if you go down. Now the cool thing about this is that, for example, when you use a modulation, you can only use a waveform, which is a pretty strict rule. But with this one, you can design or you can just do whatever you wish. And you can go crazy. And not only that, notice that you get presets right here at the bottom. So if you want to go back to default, you just go back to default. If you want to use a sine wave, you use a sine wave or just the common waveforms. And notice that you get more. So yeah, if you're just looking for a start, maybe you want a square, you don't have to, go manually and do it. You're just gonna go right here and just then edit the square. And you get many. Yeah, just great, man. Notice you do get a lot. Right, okay, so let me just go back to the normal one because it's just getting crazy. So I'm gonna go there and just do that. So of course, you can decide how much points you have. Of course, you can decide to sync it with the DAW tempo and how fast it goes. So if you want to go faster, it's going to go faster. And if you want to unsync it, you can go in milliseconds. Or seconds in this case. You can go up to 20 seconds. It's just crazy. Right. So far, this is very simple. Just very simple to understand. Then, of course, you can do 4 different modulations. So let's say that you want to do this one, and then you're going to do the frequency, and then you're going to do the resonance all at the same time. Of course, you're going to need to do something. All right. So can you see the problem? I just, I was waiting just a little bit so you can see the problem. So every time you do this, you're going to get a sound because you have an envelope. But this one lives within the first one. If you go to this, you have a different envelope. So now you have 4 different envelopes and you can create different movements and the envelopes are not shared. Now, of course, if you want to do the same thing, you just can copy and just, use the same. But now I'm going to go to the resonance and do something really crazy. I don't know, something like that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Great, man. And let's say you want to smooth this. Of course, you can go exponential or linear. Let's go crazy. Right. All right, so that's how it works. It's pretty simple. So let me go back to template because it's just now too weird. So notice that you get the key trick, the loop, and the Pulley. For now, I'm just disabling the Pulley because I want to show you something. And if I do it with the Pulley, it's going to be hard to explain. So notice that this one follows a motion. It goes from the beginning, then goes all the way through the different points, and then restarts, right? And every time I play something, notice that this, the blue dot that it's moving, it's restarting. So this is what the key trigger is going to do. If I disable this, it doesn't matter, I'm playing a new key. So the key trigger will restart the cycle of the loop every time I press a key. So I can disable this one and it's going to, of course, go in a loop. We'll restart the loop. If I disable this one, it's going to go in a loop. So it doesn't matter again that I press a key. I press a new key. It will always follow the same loop, right? It will not restart. That's an important thing to know. And that is the Pulley. And I really don't know how I'm going to explain this because it's something that you can hear, not something that you can maybe explain. For now, I'm just going to go here. Okay. So I'm going to do Pulley. All right. So we have an instruction. And now the instruction right now is that every time we press a key, the envelope restarts. And I'm going to go and do something like that. All right. And I'm going to go and do the oscillator number 1 frequency, and I'm going to go all the way in. So we hear that. Okay. So the Pulley, when the Pulley is disabled, it means that all the voices, even if I do a chord, all the voices that we are using are going to follow the same envelope, right? They're all following the same instruction. And it's because Pulley is disabled. So whenever I press something, all voices sound the same with the pitch. Go all at the same time, go up and down. So the thing is that the Pulley, what it will do is that if I press and hold the key, the voice that it's playing that sound, it's following this instruction. But if I press a new key, that new voice that I'm introducing to the sound will follow the same instruction but from a different place. So yeah, that's the difference. So each voice is going to restart on its on whenever we press the key. That's why we get this weird sound, because all voices are starting from a different instruction. So if I press many keys, it's going to get crazy because all the voices are following a different instruction, or they're following the same instruction but starting on a different place. Because each voice can do can do its own thing. And that's why we get a crazy sound. If I do Pulley, it doesn't matter what I do, all the voices are following the same instruction. So always be aware of, how you use this, because maybe you don't want that crazy sound that you get with the Pulley, right? So, and by default, when you go to a default patch, it's enabled. And again, just make sure that, this is what you want. And then that's it. That's pretty much about, that's pretty much with this. That's it. That's what you get. Of course, you can draw whatever you wish. And right here, if you want, you can cycle by the different points. So this, what you get right here is kind of a control to do the same thing we are doing with the mouse. Now this rules the level. The other one rules the time. And this one rules the point that it's being selected. All right, so let me go back to default again. Default. And then you have the other one, which is the Modulation Matrix. And this one is a bit different. It's just, another way of, applying modulation. But of course, you cannot choose whatever you want right here. On this one, we can choose whatever we want. That's why it's very useful. On this one, you can use the velocity. You can use the keyboard, which is, how hard you're going to press the note. I'm sorry, this is the, the key that you're pressing. If you're playing a low key, the effect is going to be something. And if you're playing a higher key, it's going to be different. Then you get the AT, which maybe you're thinking, okay, is the attack. No, it's going to be the aftertouch. Then you get the MW, which if you think about could be mouse wheel. But if you think about it, we don't have a mouse wheel. It's a mod wheel. And this is how we can use the mod wheel to modulate different sources, right? So if we disable the vibrato, now the mod wheel is much useful. And then you get the filter envelope. You can use this envelope to modulate something. So now you only get this 4 sources. So again, the velocity is how hard you press the keys. This one is which key you're playing, the aftertouch, the mod wheel, and the filter envelope. And so now I'm going to just use the mouse wheel. And whenever you click right here, you pretty much get the same thing you're getting right here, right? So you can choose whatever it is that you want to do. And in terms of values, it's the same idea with this one. You can go to negative or you can go to positive. It's just the same idea. So I'm going to go and say I want to use the mod wheel to modulate the filter frequency, something that, it's very common. So I'm going to play something and then use the mod wheel to do the modulation. All right, so pretty simple. Now, if I use the velocity now, how hard I press the keys is going to do a modulation. Right now, I'm just playing very softly. But if I play hard, I get just, a much more intense effect because we're modulating this further. Soft and then crazy. And then, of course, you can use the filter envelope if you wish, which, right now we are using the filter, so it makes no sense. But if I do maybe the oscillator frequency and we use something, notice you're going to get that sound. Now the envelope is ruling how the frequency of the 1 and 2 works. And of course, you can do several things at the same time. Let's say I want to still use the filter, but with the mod wheel. So now I can do something. So that's it. Of course, you can combine different things and use, different things. Now I cannot show you the aftertouch because I don't have aftertouch on this keyboard. But if you don't know what it is let's say that you have some pads, let's say that you're using a pad, and you know that pads are sensitive. If you have a good, pad, then when you, hit the pad, you get the sound. But if you press really hard on the pad, of course, the volume of whatever you're doing gets increased. So if you play the pad, you keep pressing the pad just like a key, and then you apply more pressure to that pad, that will be detected. So that's the aftertouch. You touch something, and if you press harder while pressing that button or that pad, it will detect how hard you're pressing. I don't have anything like that. I do have some pads, but right now they're just disconnected. But that's it. That's the whole modulation section. You can go really crazy on this one, and we're going to use them whenever we build sounds on the upcoming videos. And let's go to the effects. And I don't feel like I don't need to do a lot of explaining right here. This is just pretty simple. You get a ton of effects, you know, bit crusher, compressor, and of course I'm not going to go through each effect because they are very simple. It's just a reverb, just a chorus. You know, I much prefer not to go through every single effect because it's going to take us like 25 minutes. So maybe more. So it makes no sense. It's just an effect. Now, the thing that you need to know is that, of course, they're interchangeable. You can change the position of the effects, which is something very important that we don't get with all, you know, synthesizers, and we don't get with all the Arturia synths. Maybe with the old versions, they are just pretty kind of a hard, you know, wired, so we cannot change it. But with this one, we can. We just can change how this sounds. Now, there's another important thing is the routing. So, of course, right now, the routing, it goes in kind of in a chain mode. So this effect will go to this effect, and this effect will go to this effect. But then you have the other choice with the other option, which is, you know, the original signal will go through the chorus separately to the overdrive, and then in a separate motion to the effect number 3, which is a chorus, let's say, or maybe let's just choose something else. So it means that, you know, the chorus effect, it will not feed to the overdrive. So you're going to get, of course, a different sound because, you know, we are hearing the original sound through different, you know, through 3 different effects. So at the end, of course, everything gets blended. But, you know, you're not kind of a forward feeding. And this is very important. It's a very important thing to know. Why? Well, let me just give you an example. I'm going to go to a delay, right? And right now, I'm just going to say none. So let's say if we have a saturation, right? So if I go and do a little bit of saturation, let me turn it off first. So we get that nice saturation. And then we have a delay. So whatever I do with the saturation is going to the delay. So the delay is making a repetition of the overdriven effect, of the overdriven sound. And that's something that maybe sometimes you don't want. What happens if you want to use a reverb first? So the reverb will be duplicated by the delay. So it's going to get, you know, a bit crazy. Sometimes it's what you want, but usually it's the other way around. First you use a delay and then you use a reverb because you don't want to repeat the reverb because the sound is going to get crazy. That's why you get the routing. So now the original sound will go to reverb and it do its own thing, and the reverb will not be fed to the delay. So the delay, it's going to get the original signal, right? So this is, again, very important. Okay, so that's it. That's the whole thing. And all right, so maybe there's one more thing we need to cover. I didn't cover on the other sections, which is the settings. Of course, you can choose the MIDI channel. You can change the unison and the you know, the polyphony of this one, which is just 16. And then you get the macros. This is something that we get with the, you know, the newer versions of the plugins, and you can just map different properties of the synth to a macro control. So right now you always get the brightness, the timbre, the time, and the movement, and they all, you know, they are all mapped to different things. So if I press something, and then notice it's moving right here. So it's just a macro. Now sometimes this will change, of course, how it sounds radically. But maybe on the brightness, I just want to do the resonance as well. Maybe I want to do that. Now it's super bright, and maybe when I turn it off, I want to do the resonance as well. So in this case, what you do is you click on Learn, and it will, you know, show you where this, what are you, you know, already using or mapped. And then if you want to do this one, then you select it, and that's it. Now you can move both at the same time, which is something useful when you're building sounds, right? So this is something, of course, you can do within the DAW, with you know, just blinking and then doing an envelope with a rack. It's something that you can easily do it with the DAW, but it's nice that you get it, you know, on the actual plugin. So really cool. And the other thing that I didn't mention is that, let's say that I go right here and do a delay, right? Maybe I'm gonna go and do feedback. So this is gonna go, of course, a bit crazy. And maybe I'm gonna do a little bit of frequency. Right, so it's gonna go crazy. And maybe you make a mistake or something happens, or maybe there's an error on the synth and you want to stop it, right? You want to stop the sound. So at the bottom, you get the panic control. So if you go to panic, it's going to kill whatever it is that you're doing. Same thing with the history. Maybe you make a change right here and you say, oof, you know, it doesn't sound that good. I wish I could just go back to whatever I had before. So you can go to the history and undo or redo whatever it is that you did. That's it. That's the whole synth. Hopefully you had a nice time. You learned you learned what this do, and now you know how to use this software, how to use the synth, and you can make sounds. And that's when you really learn how to use the synth. When you start making a track and then just creating a bass and then creating some pads, maybe some lead sounds. And that's what we're going to do on the next upcoming videos. I'm going to do maybe just 2 or maybe 3. We're going to build sounds. We're going to do sound design with the OB-XA.